Hi everyone, this is Ron with Innovative Digital Group. In today's video, we're going to go over a wireless site survey template. So this is a wireless site survey report that we did for one of our customers in Toronto. This was quite a while ago, actually. And I'm just going to go over the template, my thoughts. This was done back, wow, almost 9 years ago. So I've been doing wireless site surveys, warehouse management systems, etc. for over, I'd say 17, 18, sorry, probably almost 20 years. Don't want to really say my age, but I've been in the industry for quite a while, ever since the NORAN 900 megahertz days. And right now I do a lot of security, Cisco stuff, voice over IP, and a lot of wireless anything. So wireless site survey, wireless debugs, packet captures, etc., as well as general entrepreneurship. So let's go over this wireless site survey template. So over here we've got the title. I just kind of blanked out one of our customers' names over here. Just kind of briefly describes the overall goal of the site survey to test in different frequencies, specifically 2.4 and 5 gigahertz on 802.11, 802.11b, and 802.11g, and then you'd include all the other standards that you're testing for. And it also says, in short, a site survey is to conduct and establish precision where antennas must be positioned. On the next page, we got the site information. All of this stuff is pretty important. You have the site contact, the site address, the country, the date visited, and then also the site engineer, as well as the estimated total square footage. Unless you have the floor plans and exact square footage, then I would just put an estimate. And the general overall comments. So, over here, I just put, in this site survey, I put excessive cross-channel interference due to many access points, because this customer actually had a lot of access points when doing the wireless site survey. So in this template, in this actual site survey, we saw high levels of interference. So the site is running a backhaul type of Wi-Fi set. So put anything notable that might cause potential interference when doing your implementation, whether it's, Cisco, Meraki, Extreme, etc. So it says we recommend running more of an industrial access point such as Cisco, Meru, Aruba, or Ruckus. So you could tell how dated this one was because it talks about Ruckus. These access points are industrial type of access points. Number of access points required, NA. If you had the actual number, precise number, I put that in there so at least they can go back with the quote. The site requirement, and this is great for post installers or people that are going to be doing a post assessment. Let's say you're doing the site survey and you have another engineer going in there. This is great for them. So you can hand them over the site survey. And let me just explain this for a quick second. Site surveys are very important. Sometimes we like to do a preventative maintenance or scan or walkthrough in a warehouse or a facility or in an office because things do change. Your neighbors, they're running different bands, different channels, etc. Because if your APs are in a static channel and you have non-auto RF kind of configuration and you're running static channels, and if you guys are interfering with each other, you guys are sharing the bandwidth within that zone, right, or within that band, that specific channel. So it's always important to do a scan or walkthrough every 6 months, especially in warehouses as racking changes, because you never know what kind of interference you can have. And if it's really slowing down the users in the warehouse, you're just going to be losing money based on their salaries, right, and downtime, right? If they're always complaining, say it's not working, it has to get reset, etc., then that's just a lot of downtime for the warehouse workers. So the next step is we mentioned the site requirements, network standard to be supported. So we talk about whether it's 802.11, 5 gig ABGN. The technical objectives is to run an active and a passive site survey, as long as with an RF spectrum analysis with Air Magnet, Fluke, or Ekahau if you'd like. So this is probably one of the most important things that everyone should include in their site survey. If you're getting a site survey and you don't have some kind of spectrum analysis, I wouldn't even go with the company that is doing a site survey, because the spectrum analysis, an RF site survey, is great for antenna positions and placement of access points to scan the air for 2.4 and maybe cross-channel interference on both 2.4 and 5 gig. But if you're not scanning anything outside of there with the RF spectrum analyzer, then you're not seeing the type of interference that you could be missing. And there's no point in running or installing a wireless network if you don't know what's in the air. If you don't know what's in the air, or if you don't know how clean the air is, then my personal opinion is I don't think engineers or companies should be recommending a wireless site survey. Rate shifting, yes. Redundancy, yes, where possible with degrade. Now, this is something that you'd have to ask your customer. Do you want redundancy, yes or no? Because access points could be set up in different ways. It just really depends on the density of racks, aisles, etc. You know, if you're clear open space in an office environment with low cubicles, it's not so much of a problem. So you typically wouldn't need a lot of redundancy. But when you're in warehouses and it's very hard to get into the ceiling, you need to rent a forklift, you need to schedule a time. The workers are picking and you don't want to get in their way. I'd really recommend redundant access points. So in the event that one access point goes offline, the AP will adjust its cell coverage. I'm just trying to explain this in easier to understand terms. So that cell is just going to kind of expand if you have auto RF on. If you have something static, then that won't work. But it's something that you could do on the fly, or if you have access into the cloud. Number of users, ignore. Actually, don't ignore, because this really depends on requirements. VoIP, is it just for VoIP? Is it for data? Is it for both? Survey equipment used, the type, the model, the frequency, antenna, RF technology, direct spread spectrum. We talk about the SSID, the max throughput, as well as the power output. So typically, I don't like to run any of my. You should never run your AP at 100 milliwatts or 75 milliwatts. You always want to run your radio at 50 milliwatt throughput, right? Just in case you need to do adjustments, unless because typical site survey engineers, they're not always going to bring the exact AP model that you are going to be putting in. Okay, sometimes the future AP might have a different milliwatt of power, so I always like to do 50 milliwatts throughput, half the throughput, so at least you have some kind of threshold to work with. You're not at its max and its limitations. Over here, we talk about the wireless NIC use for the site survey walkthrough. The laptop model, okay, what did we use? What kind of laptop? The wireless LAN adapter. Did you use an internal and an external? Because this is great, because with an external adapter, you're going to have an antenna that is actually free to air. Right, with an internal, it's a little different, and it also depends on the mix. Right, is it a Proxim? I like to use a Proxim, the 8494. The internal CCX. What kind of AP you're connecting to in the future, and is it CCX compatible? The frequency is 2.4 and 5. The ESSID that I was using, it was Survey, and the software, Air Magnet Analyzer, Survey with Y-SPI Spectrum and Analyzer. Power output level on my card was 30 milliwatts. And here we just go over a general access point placement overview. So, and you don't really have to complicate things, because all of these APs are going to be down in the report that are labeled. Okay, this kind of gives a general overview for the cabling installers, or for anyone who's putting these APs. If you're not putting the APs yourself, you would have an access point here, and then you could reference AP1 or base 1 or AP3 over here. You can see AP3 with the last two item locators. So this is their warehouse, B2-56. Okay. The fourth access point is going to be in aisle B2, 94. Okay, so that's just something to reference to. And then this is great for IT administrators, people who want to troubleshoot this, to see where the access points are. And the next step, we're going to go over the detailed AP. So the access point, AP01, the location, so reference to figure 1. Okay, we scroll up, reference to figure 1 over here. And AP1 is right here. So this just says, just reference to it. The mounting instructions is ceiling truss beam mount, AP design, extreme external dipole antenna. Okay, so we were installing, I think, Cisco 1262 back in the day, and the AP design had the external antennas. Notes, measurements, RF testing with 802.11 BGN, bracket type, plywood or tie wraps. So on plywood with tie wraps or beam clamps, it's up to you. And here we have a picture. So we got a picture of exactly the location. So when they reference figure 1 on the map, they will see if the installer, okay, where are they going to be installing? Right around this area. So it could be on this, usually on this beam. Have antennas facing downwards, clear of any wood or metal, okay? So you don't want to have anything that obstructs the clear path of the RF signal. So usually if you have the access point here, nothing should be below. I don't like the position of this just because you could create some kind of reflection with the metal. So typically I'd have my access point sitting below here. And here's access point 1. So the way I like to do it, I like to do it very clear. So if I've got my access point 1, which is in this location, you could look at the signal to noise ratio. And this is the most important thing to me, the signal to noise ratio, because you're measuring both. Well, obviously it's the ratio of the signal versus the noise. So if your SNR is clear, as you can see, we're in the high 40s where AP1 was just right around here. And as we get further down here, the signal to noise ratio degrades. So, and this is all controllable. Like I said, in my survey report above, we're running at 50 milliwatts. We could scale this down to 20 and have more redundant APs, right? So at least we know that if an AP goes down in this area, I have the option to kind of use this as a redundant AP for many areas. So over here, we go to access point 2. So I'm just going to quickly skip through a lot of these because it's pretty much the same information. The location reference to figure 1, the external dipole antenna measurements, and then it's mounted on plywood. And as you can see, kind of circle. And on the second one, you can see as well, you know, the heat map, right? Because these are very important too when you get into post support. So whether you're working with, you know, vendor A or vendor B, I've been in thousands and thousands of calls over my years. And if you're working with one vendor, let's say it's Motorola, Honeywell for the RF handhelds, and on the other side, you're working with the AP manufacturer like Extreme Networks, Cisco, etc. There's a lot of times that you're gonna have those engineers all on a call because you're trying to troubleshoot an issue that no one can solve, and there's going to be a lot of finger pointing. And one of the most important things they're going to say is, "Can you show me the site survey?" If you don't have that site survey, they're going to request one. They're going to request a site survey because they want to know if the air is clean and if there was a stamp of approval. That is the main thing, and I'm going to really emphasize this in my videos, is you really need that stamp of approval ongoing. A lot of customers have a reactive approach, right? So when something goes wrong, then they say, okay, well, we need this, we need that. But, you know, you should always have some kind of proactive approach, not a reactive approach, because let's say you don't have the site survey. One of the vendors is going to throw up their hands and say, well, until you get to the site survey, we don't know what we're dealing with. For all they know, there could be interference. So let's go to the next page. The next page and the next, I think 14 access points are all similar. So I'm just going to get more towards down to the last pages. So over here, you can see Air Magnet Wi-Fi Analyzer Pro. This is where we do Air Magnet's overall Wi-Fi analyzer, because we're looking at potential causes of interference, right? What are we seeing? How many channels? What's the channel utilization overall? You know, how many frames are being sent? You know, what's being dropped? Is there too much channel bonding, etc.? Here we go over kind of more overlapping legacy BS. So we got some legacy access point. Over here, we have excessive low speed transmissions on the channels, right? Because there's just way too many access points when we did a site survey. This channel over here, channel 11, was just overloaded with APs. Here, I like to put my notes, my implementation considerations, the survey, etc. Access point power, cabling. You know, when planning for cabling of these devices, consideration should be given to support for PoE or inline power injectors. Switch to radio AP, cable length 100 meters. This really depends. A lot of contractors would say, you know what, I'll give you 50 meters max on it. Redundancy requirements for availability will be determined by the wireless LAN application being deployed. RF coverage redundancy has been designed where practical. The survey provides for overlapping self-coverage, which is great. So typically overlapping self-coverage could be anywhere from 15 to 20%, but you could design it as you like. And that is it for the wireless site survey template. If you're looking for a wireless site survey company in Toronto or in Markham, you can reach us over at Innovative Digital Group, www.innovativedigitalgroup. We're located in the Markham area, just about 30 minutes from Toronto. So this is the wireless site survey template. Aside from this, we always, like I said, we always include an RF spectrum analysis, a template as well. So it's going to show potential interference and recommendations, because you want to have that in your report to at least notify the customer that, hey, here are some potential sources of interference that you want to address. Okay, so that's it for the template. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.